Hello, my name is Clayton Curtis, and I will be speaking to you about the issues surrounding mass incarceration in our society, as well as explaining how it affects the larger United States. I'll be explaining these effects from a more Catholic perspective. I'll also be providing a potential Catholic response to this issue. I'll also discuss what we as high schoolers can do to help people who are affected by the issue of mass incarceration. And I will provide multiple different perspectives that differ from my own perspective. Most historians believe that mass incarceration started in the late 60s or early 70s. It was originally proposed as a solution to the growing war on drugs and the war on crime. It was an interesting idea in theory. However, in practice, it proved to be largely ineffective at reducing crime rates around the country. However, even after the war on crime and drugs ended, mass incarceration still persisted and has only increased over the years. In fact, the U.S. has one of the highest incarceration rates in the world, and unfortunately, this increase in incarceration has provoked an increase in minority incarceration rates, specifically African Americans and Hispanic Americans. Studies show that African Americans and Hispanic Americans are 4 times likely to be incarcerated than a white American, as well as being more likely to receive a longer prison sentence and being less likely to receive parole. In addition, they make up more than half of the U.S. prison population. One of the core teachings of the Catholic Church is the principle of human dignity and the principle of solidarity. But what are these principles? Human dignity forces us to remember that every person is a part of the human race and thus deserves basic human rights. To deny a person of these rights for any reason cannot be justified. Solidarity teaches us that we have an inherent commitment to sharing the common good amongst every member of a society. The Church teaches that we serve and advocate for the equal and fair treatment of those who are on the margins of society. Mass incarceration is a violation of human dignity and solidarity because it denies basic human rights, such as the ability to change, personal connections, and promoting inherent racial and social inequality. Mass incarceration is also an example of structural sin, as it enforces a cycle of African American and Hispanic men being thrown in prison without regarding for the many families being left without a positive male influence, creating a cycle of crime and the community value going down. According to the late Pope Francis and other popes, it is the inherent duty of every Christian to look out for the common good, pushing for those in charge to give the common good amongst everyone in a community. Popes also advocate for politicians to look out for the needs of everyone that they are in charge of, especially the poor, as they are the ones in need of help the most. Relating to mass incarceration, as most victims of this injustice are African American and Hispanic males that live in lower income areas. But what do other people think about this issue? I didn't want to just spew my own thoughts and opinions at you, so I decided to search for sources that differed from my own opinion. In that search, I found John Hammer, a writer from Newsweek, who offered his thoughts on an issue which leaned a bit more on the pro side rather than my own obviously opposed side of the issue of mass incarceration. In addition to John, I also wanted to find a source from a writer that was a bit more neutral, and I found Raphael Mantra. The core of John's argument is that the U.S. has one of the highest rates of crime in the world, and he believes that mass incarceration is a necessary, albeit extreme, way potentially reducing the rate of crime in the U.S. He does acknowledge that there is a racial bias to minorities when dealing with mass incarceration. However, he doesn't see it as disqualifying it from being a possible solution to reduce crime. In contrast, Raphael's argument offers a bit more of a logical and an analytical way of solving this issue. She doesn't inherently state that mass incarceration is bad. However, its rates aren't proportional to the amount of crime it actually reduces. So she suggests that there should be more effective ways of reducing crime so that mass incarceration's use declines as we find better, more effective solutions. But why should we as high school students care about the issue of mass incarceration? Especially when most of us don't live with its effects or see its effects in our daily lives, and the impact that it has on our communities and society. So I ask again, why should we care? Well, I think we should care because it's our inherent duty to care for the needs of others, especially the needs of those who are at a disadvantage when compared to us and those who are targeted by those in power. Caring about the issue of mass incarceration and various other social issues forces us to confront the laws and issues in the world. These social issues remind us that outside of the gates of SLU, there is a world full of injustice and corruption, and that same corruption has a massive impact on the lives of other people. If it happens for long enough, it could take root within a society, creating a cycle of exploitation. Back to the issue of mass incarceration, it leaves many families in certain communities without fathers and positive male influence. This lack of male influence can create a cycle of crime and a cycle of lacking employment, leading to the property value of these communities going down. As men for others, we should feel obligated to lend a helping hand to those in disadvantaged areas. But what can we do? I suggest that we start small by joining outreach programs that lend aid to people in these disadvantaged communities that are affected by mass incarceration. Later on, as we graduate and grow older, we should advocate for reforms in prison systems and prison sentences, as well as reforms in parole. If there's one thing I've learned from researching mass incarceration, it's that only by working together and being empathetic towards those others, we only by that way can we create a better, more equitable world. Thank you for listening.